Emma drove slowly along the quiet highway, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and a cool wind blew through the open windows. Her heart raced, and she kept glancing at the rearview mirror as if expecting someone to appear out of nowhere. She had been on this road many times before, but tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't just driving to a diner. She was driving to face something she had avoided for weeks. Up ahead, a small roadside diner came into view. Its neon sign flickered softly, casting a warm glow over the empty parking lot. The smell of fried food and coffee seemed to reach her even before she parked, stirring a mixture of hunger and nervous tension inside her. As she slowed the car and found a spot near the edge, she noticed them, the group of bikers. They were leaning casually against their motorcycles, their leather jackets creased and worn from years of riding, and their helmets tucked under their arms. Tattoos snaked down their arms, and some had long, unkempt hair that gave them a rough, almost dangerous look. Emma's stomach twisted as she took them in. She knew the reputation of people like this: rough, loud, and unpredictable. A shiver ran down her spine, but she straightened her back and reminded herself why she was here. This wasn't about her comfort or fear. It was about her son, Alex. He was somewhere inside that diner, or at least nearby, and he needed her. The thought of him in danger, even for a moment, made her fear turn into determination. As she stepped out of the car, the wind tugged at her jacket. Her boots clicked on the pavement as she walked toward the entrance, each step measured and deliberate. She tried to appear calm, but her hands betrayed her, slightly trembling as they clutched her bag. One of the bikers, a tall man with dark tattoos curling up his arms, noticed her immediately. He smirked and called out in a joking, loud voice, "Hey lady, step back." Emma paused, her eyes meeting his. The other bikers laughed, some nudging each other as they watched her. It was clear to her that they assumed she was just another nervous stranger, maybe someone who didn't belong here. The laughter echoed in her ears, and for a moment, she considered turning around, pretending this was a mistake. But then she felt a wave of something stronger than fear, resolve. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and with a calm but firm voice said, "Step back." The words were simple, but they carried weight. It wasn't a question, and it wasn't timid. The laughter from the bikers grew louder at first, almost mocking her. But there was something in her tone that made them pause just enough to notice she wasn't joking. She wasn't there to entertain or to be intimidated. She was there for a purpose, and she intended to see it through. As she continued toward the diner entrance, she could feel the eyes of the bikers on her. They weren't just watching, they were studying her, trying to figure out who she was and why she had the courage to speak up. Emma's pulse was still fast, but each step forward seemed to make her braver. She reminded herself of her son's face, the last conversation they had before he got mixed up with the wrong crowd, and it steeled her nerves. She wasn't just walking into a diner. She was walking into a challenge, one that required every ounce of her courage. The diner's doors creaked as she pushed them open, and the smell of coffee, grilled sandwiches, and the faint scent of motor oil filled her senses. The inside was dimly lit, with a few booths occupied by locals quietly eating and chatting. But all her attention went to the bikers, who had followed her inside, their laughter now subdued as they noticed the serious expression on her face. It was the kind of seriousness that demanded attention without needing to shout. She scanned the diner quickly, looking for Alex. Her heart skipped a beat when she spotted a boy sitting quietly in the corner, trying to make himself invisible. His head was down, fiddling with a napkin, unaware that his mother had finally arrived. Emma felt a rush of relief mixed with concern. He was here, he was safe for now, but she knew the bikers were still a looming presence, and she had to approach this carefully. Taking a deep breath, Emma adjusted her jacket, squared her shoulders, and started walking toward Alex. The bikers watched her every move, some leaning on their bikes inside the diner, others crossing their arms, curious and slightly amused. But Emma didn't let their presence intimidate her. She had come too far, and her mission was too important. Every step she took was a step toward protecting her son and proving that no amount of laughter or intimidation could stop a mother from doing what was right. By the time she reached the booth where Alex sat, the air in the diner seemed heavier, charged with anticipation. It was as if everyone sensed that something important was about to happen. And Emma, standing there in front of her son, ready to face whatever came next, knew this was just the beginning of the story. One where courage, love, and determination would collide with danger, mockery, and the unexpected respect of those who underestimated her. Emma had just stepped inside the diner, and the atmosphere immediately shifted. The group of bikers, who had been leaning casually against their motorcycles outside, had followed her in, filling the doorway with their presence. Their laughter, which had echoed outside like a challenge, now seemed louder inside, bouncing off the walls and making the little diner feel smaller and more tense. They were big, imposing men, with leather jackets, tattoos snaking up their arms, and a confidence that made them seem untouchable. Yet, Emma refused to let them intimidate her. She glanced toward Alex, who was sitting at a corner booth, trying to make himself invisible. His head was down, and he fidgeted with a straw wrapper, clearly hoping nobody would notice him. Emma felt her chest tighten. She wanted to run to him immediately, to scoop him up and take him out of this place, but she knew she had to be smart. Charging in recklessly could make things worse. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and began walking toward the booth. Every step felt like a small victory over the fear twisting in her stomach. The bikers' laughter grew louder again. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward and called out in a mocking tone, "Hey lady, step back." The words weren't just a joke. They were meant to test her, to see if she would shrink or argue. Emma stopped for a moment and looked directly at him, her eyes meeting his. The diner seemed to freeze for a second, as if everyone could feel the tension. The words she said next were calm, steady, but full of authority. "Step back." There was a beat of silence. The bikers looked at each other and then back at her. A few laughed nervously, unsure how to react to her firm voice. Others smirked, clearly entertained. But Emma's tone wasn't harsh or aggressive. It was controlled, confident, and unwavering. She wasn't asking for respect. She was demanding it in the simplest way. The power in those two words made the bikers pause, just long enough for them to sense that she wasn't a woman who could be easily mocked. Emma kept moving toward Alex, her eyes constantly scanning the group. She noticed their curiosity growing. Some leaned on their bikes, arms crossed, while others tilted their heads, trying to figure her out. She could feel their attention like a weight on her back, but she ignored it. Her focus was on Alex and the reason she was there. She reminded herself of all the sleepless nights she had spent worrying about him, the days she had tracked his movements, and the anxiety of not knowing where he might end up. All of that fear had transformed into resolve. As she approached the booth, Emma could hear snippets of conversation from the bikers. "Who does she think she is?" one muttered. "She's got guts. I'll give her that," said another. The mix of amusement and respect in their voices only strengthened her determination. She knew that fear and respect were two sides of the same coin in situations like this. She couldn't control their reactions, but she could control herself, and that was enough. Finally, Emma reached Alex. She knelt slightly to be at his level, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Alex," she said softly but firmly. His head shot up, eyes wide, a mixture of surprise and relief crossing his face. He had recognized her instantly. For a moment, the outside world, the bikers, the diner, everything seemed to disappear. It was just mother and son, reunited in a quiet but powerful way amidst the chaos surrounding them. The bikers, watching this exchange, grew quieter. Their laughter had faded, replaced by curiosity and a strange respect. They weren't used to seeing someone confront them. Not with anger, not with fear, but with calm authority. Emma wasn't threatening them, she wasn't begging, and she wasn't shrinking away. She was a mother, and that fact alone made her presence commanding. Emma's gaze shifted briefly back to the tall biker who had first mocked her. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second, and something unspoken passed between them. He tilted his head slightly, acknowledging her courage without a word. It wasn't admiration exactly, but it was the beginning of understanding. He realized that the woman in front of him wasn't here to play games. She had a mission, and she wasn't leaving until it was complete. Alex, still holding his mother's hand, felt a surge of relief. He had known his mother could be strong, but seeing her stand up in front of the intimidating bikers gave him a sense of safety he hadn't felt in weeks. He leaned slightly into her, reassured by her presence and her calm authority. Emma squeezed his hand gently, silently communicating that everything was going to be okay, and that they would face whatever came next together. The tension in the diner remained, but it had shifted. What had started as a mocking scene of laughter and intimidation was slowly transforming into something else. The bikers, who had assumed this woman would be an easy target for ridicule, now found themselves reassessing the situation. Emma's calm confidence and unwavering purpose were changing the dynamic. No longer were they laughing at a stranger. They were beginning to realize that she was someone who could not be dismissed. Emma took a deep breath and stood slightly taller, ready to continue the next step of her mission. She knew the bikers were watching, the diner patrons were noticing, and Alex was depending on her. This was only the beginning, but she had already won a small but significant victory. The laughter had stopped, and for the first time, the room was listening. Emma stood in front of Alex, feeling his small hand grasp hers tightly. The tension in the diner was thick, like a heavy fog that pressed against everyone's chest. The bikers, who had been laughing and joking just moments before, were now quiet. Their laughter had faded into murmurs and uncertain glances. No one knew what to expect from this woman who had walked in so calmly, yet carried an air of authority that made even the roughest of them pause. Emma took a steadying breath. Her voice was calm but carried a firmness that demanded attention. "I'm here for my son," she said clearly. Just 6 words, but they hung in the air like a command. The simplicity of the statement was its power. It didn't need to be loud or dramatic. It wasn't a question or a threat. It was truth spoken with certainty. The words caused an immediate stir. Some bikers exchanged surprised glances, unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. Others tilted their heads, studying her, trying to understand who she was and what she meant. There was a moment of stillness, like the whole diner had paused to hear what would happen next. Emma's gaze remained steady, moving from Alex to the group of bikers. She wasn't intimidated by their size, their tattoos, or their reputation. She had one goal, and that was to get her son safely out of this situation. Alex looked up at her, his eyes wide with a mix of surprise and relief. He hadn't expected her to find him here, and certainly hadn't expected her to confront the bikers so directly. The boy had been trying to disappear, hoping no one would notice him, but seeing his mother now gave him a sense of safety he hadn't felt in weeks. Emma knelt slightly to be at his level, squeezing his hand gently. "It's okay, Alex," she said softly. "I'm here. We're leaving together." Her words had a strange effect on the bikers. The group, which had seemed so untouchable and loud just minutes before, began to sense something different about Emma. She wasn't here to fight, and she wasn't here to yell. She was here with purpose, driven by love and determination. That combination was something the bikers hadn't expected. They were used to people reacting with fear or arrogance, not calm authority. One of the bikers, a large man with a chain wrapped around his leather vest, stepped forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. "You mean that kid?" he asked, his voice cautious, not mocking this time. Emma nodded, keeping her tone even. "Yes, he's my son. And he's not going anywhere with you." The certainty in her voice made him pause. There was no room for argument, no hesitation. Another biker, younger and leaner, muttered something under his breath, clearly surprised. "She's serious," he said to the man next to him. The older biker nodded slowly. They had been ready for a joke, an easy laugh at a scared woman's expense, but instead they found themselves confronted with someone who refused to be intimidated. Emma's calm demeanor and unwavering eyes forced them to reconsider their initial assumptions. Alex, feeling his mother's strength, stood a little taller, still holding her hand. He had been scared, thinking he could hide from the consequences of his actions. But now he realized he had a safe place to go. Emma's presence was like a shield around him. He didn't need to fight. He didn't need to argue. He just needed to follow her lead. Emma took a step closer to the bikers, making sure her movement was deliberate but non-threatening. She didn't shout or raise her hands in anger. She simply stated her purpose again, this time a little louder so everyone could hear. I'm here for my son. He is coming with me, and I will not leave without him. Her words were simple, but the confidence behind them carried weight. The bikers shifted uncomfortably. Some of them muttered among themselves, whispering questions and doubts. Others, who had been more aggressive or mocking earlier, looked at her with a new respect, recognizing that this was no ordinary confrontation. Emma wasn't trying to prove anything to them personally. She was focused entirely on her son's safety. That singular focus, combined with her calm authority, made her impossible to intimidate. Emma's eyes softened as she looked at Alex. Let's go, honey, she said gently, encouraging him to stand. He rose, feeling the protective power of his mother beside him. At that moment, the dynamic in the diner completely shifted. What had started as a mocking scene of laughter and intimidation had turned into a silent standoff, with Emma clearly in control of the situation. The bikers were no longer laughing. Their body language had changed. Arms that had been crossed in confidence now hung more loosely, heads tilted in observation rather than challenge. They realized that this woman's courage wasn't loud or aggressive. It was steady, unwavering, and focused entirely on something far stronger than fear: love. Emma took a deep breath, still holding Alex's hand, and prepared to lead him toward the exit. She could feel the biker's eyes following them, some still curious, others quietly respectful. She didn't need to speak more. Her message had been sent. She was a mother who would not be ignored, and she had claimed her son's safety with nothing more than calm words and unwavering presence. As they moved slowly toward the door, the diner seemed to exhale, the tension easing but not disappearing completely. Emma glanced back briefly, noting the mix of surprise and respect in the biker's expressions. She didn't gloat, didn't mock, didn't say anything more. She didn't need to. The moment had already changed everything. Emma and Alex stepped outside, leaving the diner behind, but the memory of that calm authority lingered. For the bikers, it was a lesson in respect. For Alex, it was a lesson in the power of his mother's courage. And for Emma, it was a reminder that sometimes the simplest words, spoken with clarity and love, can hold more power than fear, anger, or intimidation ever could. As Emma walked with Alex out of the diner, her mind drifted back to the weeks leading up to this moment. The memory was sharp and heavy, a mixture of worry, fear, and determination that had driven her to track him down. Alex hadn't always been in trouble. Just a few months ago, he was the cheerful, curious boy who loved drawing and playing basketball with his friends. But over time, something had changed. He had fallen in with a crowd of bikers, older teens and young adults who seemed exciting and rebellious to him. Emma had tried to notice the warning signs at first, staying out late, avoiding phone calls, excuses about where he had been. But it escalated quickly. One afternoon, she had arrived home to find the front door unlocked and Alex gone. A note on the kitchen counter read simply, "I'll be back. Don't look for me." That was the moment Emma's world shifted. Fear gripped her chest like a heavy weight. She knew that the biker crowd wasn't just a harmless group of thrill seekers. It was a dangerous environment for a teenager, and she couldn't let him get lost in it. She spent hours on the phone, calling friends, neighbors, anyone who might have seen him. But no one knew where he was. That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table, her face buried in her hands. She thought about all the stories she had heard about teens who got involved with dangerous groups and didn't come back safely. Her heart pounded with panic, but somewhere deep inside, a spark of determination ignited. She wasn't going to sit helplessly. She had to find him, even if it meant going into places she had never imagined herself going before. Emma remembered the countless nights she spent driving through neighborhoods, looking for any sign of Alex. She learned to pay attention to details. The sound of motorcycles in the distance, the neon signs of roadside diners that bikers frequented, even the graffiti tags on street corners that marked the territory of different groups. She became almost like a detective, following every lead, talking to people, and piecing together the puzzle of where her son might be. Each lead was a mix of hope and disappointment, but she refused to give up. Then came the day she heard about this particular diner. A friend of a friend mentioned that a group of local bikers often hung out there, and that a few teens had been seen with them recently. Emma's heart skipped a beat. It was the closest lead she had had in weeks. She knew it was risky. Walking into a diner full of rough bikers could be dangerous, but she also knew she had no choice. Her son's safety was more important than her fear. Emma had spent hours preparing herself mentally. She thought about what she would say, how she would move, and how to stay calm in the face of intimidation. She reminded herself that this was not a confrontation about anger or punishment. It was about bringing her son home safely. The stakes were high, but she had trained herself to focus, to block out fear, and to act with clarity. She remembered thinking about Alex constantly during those nights. She pictured his face, the way he would smile when he thought she wasn't watching, the excitement in his eyes when he told her about his dreams. Those memories were what kept her going, what made her brave enough to face the unknown. She knew he was out there somewhere, scared and possibly regretting his choices, and she had to reach him before it was too late. As Emma approached the diner that evening, she felt the familiar mix of fear and determination. The bikers outside seemed like giants, their laughter and joking making her stomach twist, but she focused on one thing, her son. Everything else faded into the background. The noise, the eyes watching her, the mocking comments. Her love for Alex and her resolve to protect him became her shield, her strength, and her guide. Emma thought back to the times she had tried to reason with him over the phone. She remembered the frustration when he ignored her calls, the fear when he lied about his whereabouts, and the despair when she felt powerless. But she also remembered the hope, the small moments when he would open up, admit mistakes, or simply respond with a soft, "Okay, Mom." Those moments reminded her that he still needed her, still trusted her in some way, and that was enough to keep her going. By the time Emma walked into the diner, she carried all of that with her. The fear, the hope, the determination, and the love that refused to let her son go. She knew that her presence alone might surprise the bikers, but she also knew that her words and actions had to be precise, calm, and firm. This was no longer just a search. It was a mission, a test of courage, and a demonstration of how far a mother would go to protect her child. In her mind, Emma replayed every possible scenario, every obstacle she might face inside that diner. But she refused to let doubts control her. She reminded herself that she wasn't just a scared woman walking into a risky situation. She was Alex's mother, and that gave her a power that no one could underestimate. Every step she had taken to get here, every sleepless night, every moment of fear, had led to this moment. And she would face it with courage, clarity, and unwavering love. The flashback ended as Emma and Alex held hands, standing in the diner's doorway. The bikers, who had been loud and mocking outside, were now quiet, observing the mother and son in front of them. The story that had been building for weeks, the search, the worry, the courage, had all led to this critical moment. Emma knew that what happened next would define not just this evening, but the bond between her and Alex, and the lesson of how far she would go to protect the most important person in her life. Emma tightened her grip on Alex's hand as they moved further into the diner. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made every sound. Clinking plates, distant laughter, the hiss of the coffee machine, seemed louder. The bikers, who had once laughed freely outside, were now quiet, their eyes fixed on Emma. Some leaned against tables, others shifted their weight from one foot to the other, unsure how to respond. It was clear they had underestimated her. Emma's heart pounded, but she didn't let it show. She reminded herself why she was here. Alex. She wasn't going to let fear or intimidation stand in her way. Her mission was simple, to get her son safely out of this environment. But achieving it required more than just words. She needed to show strength without aggression, calm without weakness. Every step she took toward the booth where Alex had been sitting was deliberate, measured, and filled with quiet determination. The tallest biker, the one with the scarred cheek who had mocked her earlier, straightened up. "So, this kid is yours?" he asked, his voice a mix of surprise and skepticism. Emma nodded firmly, keeping her tone steady. "Yes," she said, "he is my son. He doesn't belong here, and he's coming with me." The words hung in the air. For a moment no one spoke. Then a younger biker, clearly one of the more impulsive members of the group, stepped forward. "Why should we listen to you?" he asked, his tone challenging, testing her limits. Emma didn't flinch. She looked him straight in the eye and replied calmly, "Because I know him. I know the choices he's made, the mistakes he's scared of, and the risks he's facing. And I am not leaving without him." Her words caused a stir. The bikers muttered among themselves, exchanging glances. Emma could see their minds working, trying to gauge her courage, her resolve, and whether she was serious. She didn't need them to like her, but she needed them to understand that she wasn't bluffing. Her calm authority, the love in her eyes, and the unwavering focus on her son made it clear that this wasn't a situation to be taken lightly. Alex, standing beside her, felt a mixture of awe and relief. His mother's presence was a shield, a force field that made him feel safe in a situation that had felt increasingly out of control. He had been scared, knowing the influence these bikers had. But now he understood that his mother's courage was stronger than any intimidation they could throw at him. He squeezed her hand, silently signaling that he trusted her completely. Emma took a slow, deliberate step closer to the group. She didn't raise her voice, didn't make any sudden movements. She simply repeated, slightly louder this time, "Alex is my son. He is leaving with me, and I will not be stopped." Her words were clear, firm, and filled with authority that came not from anger, but from love. The bikers' expressions shifted. Some were still skeptical, but the tension in their posture showed a subtle change. They were beginning to respect her courage. The one who had spoken first, the tall man with the scar, narrowed his eyes but didn't step closer. He realized that this woman wasn't there to fight them in their world. She was there to claim what was rightfully hers. Another biker, the younger one who had challenged her, muttered under his breath, "She's serious, really serious." Emma caught the words and didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her calm demeanor and unwavering focus spoke louder than any argument she could make. The bikers could sense that she was in control, not because of size, strength, or aggression, but because of sheer determination and love for her son. Emma knelt slightly to meet Alex's eye level, giving him a reassuring smile. "We're leaving together," she whispered. He nodded, feeling a surge of confidence and relief. He had known his mother could be brave, but seeing her stand so firmly in front of people who had once frightened him gave him a sense of safety he hadn't felt in weeks. The standoff continued for a few tense moments. The bikers were quiet now, no longer mocking, no longer laughing. They were watching, calculating, and beginning to understand that Emma's authority was not to be challenged. Her presence had shifted the dynamic completely. What had started as a scene filled with laughter and intimidation had transformed into a silent acknowledgement of her resolve. Emma stood, holding Alex's hand firmly. She could feel the energy in the room change. Some bikers leaned back, still observing, while others seemed almost impressed by her courage. She didn't move aggressively or threaten anyone. She simply held her ground, letting her calm authority do the work. Finally, the tallest biker, the one who had mocked her first, took a step back. There was no applause, no verbal acknowledgement, but the action spoke volumes. The younger bikers followed suit, creating space for Emma and Alex to move toward the exit. Emma didn't react to their gestures. She simply continued walking, leading her son out of the tense environment. Every step toward freedom was filled with a quiet triumph. Emma had faced a group of intimidating strangers and, without raising her voice in anger or resorting to threats, had successfully reclaimed her son. Her calm, unwavering presence had diffused a potentially dangerous situation, proving that love, courage, and determination could overcome fear and intimidation. As they approached the door, Emma glanced back one last time. The bikers were watching, some nodding subtly, others simply observing. None of them laughed anymore. The power of her presence had shifted the room entirely. Emma knew that this moment would stay with Alex forever, a memory of a mother's bravery and the strength of her love. Holding Alex's hand tightly, she stepped outside, leaving the diner behind. The tension stayed inside, but outside, the cool evening air felt like freedom. Emma knew that they had overcome one of the most challenging moments they would face together. And, as Emma and Alex moved slowly toward the exit, the tension in the diner remained thick, but something had changed. The bikers, once loud and mocking, now stood silently, studying them carefully. It was clear that her calm and determined presence had shaken their assumptions. What had started as a situation filled with laughter and ridicule had transformed into a delicate standoff. Emma could feel their eyes on her back, but she didn't let it shake her. Her focus was entirely on Alex and ensuring his safety. The tallest biker, the one with the scarred cheek, shifted his weight and crossed his arms. His eyes, which had once gleamed with amusement, now held a cautious curiosity. He stepped forward slightly, trying to assert some control over the situation. "Wait a minute," he said, his voice steady but no longer mocking. "If this kid is yours, then what's your story? Why are you here like this?" Emma paused for a moment, letting her words settle. She knew that speaking calmly, but clearly, was crucial. She could sense that the bikers weren't hostile anymore. They were watching, waiting to understand her intentions. She looked them straight in the eye and replied, "I'm here because my son belongs with me. He's made some mistakes, yes, but he's not lost. I'm not here to fight or argue with you. I'm here to bring him home safely." Her words had an immediate effect. The bikers exchanged quick glances, whispering among themselves. Some of them lowered their heads, processing her calm authority and the sincerity in her voice. Emma noticed subtle changes in their posture. Arms uncrossing, weight shifting, subtle nods. Their initial mockery had given way to something closer to respect, an acknowledgement that this woman was not to be underestimated. Emma's gaze softened as she turned slightly toward Alex. "We're leaving together," she said quietly, reassuring him. Alex squeezed her hand, feeling a sense of security he hadn't felt in weeks. The weight of fear that had been pressing on him since getting involved with this group seemed to lift, replaced by trust and relief. He realized that his mother's courage was stronger than anything the bikers could throw at them. The tall biker with the scar stepped closer, though he didn't make any aggressive moves. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," he said slowly. His tone wasn't mocking anymore. Instead, it carried a hint of admiration. Emma didn't respond with words. She didn't need to. Her calm presence and unshakable resolve spoke louder than anything she could say. Another biker, younger and quieter, leaned forward slightly. He seemed uncertain, caught between loyalty to his group and the obvious strength he was witnessing. "You really mean it?" he asked, almost hesitantly. Emma nodded without breaking eye contact. "Yes, I will not leave without him," she said firmly. There was no anger in her voice, only certainty. It was the kind of certainty that left no room for argument. Emma could feel the atmosphere in the diner shifting even more. The tension had not disappeared completely, but the mockery and intimidation had faded. She realized that the bikers were now measuring her, trying to understand her limits, and realizing that she had none when it came to protecting her son. Her calm authority had disarmed them. It wasn't physical strength or loud words that had shifted the balance. It was focus, love, and courage. Alex, walking beside her, felt a new sense of empowerment. Seeing his mother stand firmly in front of a group of intimidating strangers made him proud and reassured. He realized that her courage wasn't just for herself. It was for him. Every step he took with her gave him a sense of safety, a reminder that he didn't have to face danger alone. The bikers were silent now, watching every movement. Some seemed impressed by her bravery, while others simply observed in cautious curiosity. Emma knew that she had not only secured Alex's immediate safety, but she had also shifted the dynamic entirely. The power in the room had changed. She wasn't there to fight, but she had asserted her authority through calmness, determination, and love. The tall biker finally spoke again. "You're not like anyone we've seen before," he said, almost to himself. Emma didn't react, but she allowed herself a small internal acknowledgement. That statement, though subtle, confirmed what she already knew. Her courage had made a difference. She had not only protected her son, but she had also earned the silent respect of those who had tried to intimidate her. Emma took a deep breath, her focus still on Alex. She gently squeezed his hand, signaling that it was time to leave. "Let's go," she whispered. He nodded, walking closely beside her. They moved carefully through the diner, aware of the eyes following them, but unafraid. The bikers stepped aside, giving them space, a silent acknowledgement that they would not interfere. As they reached the door, Emma felt a rush of relief mixed with pride. She had faced a potentially dangerous situation and had emerged successful, not through aggression or threats, but through calm authority, courage, and love. Every step she had taken had been deliberate, every word carefully measured, and it had worked. She had reclaimed her son, and in doing so she had shown him and the bikers what true bravery looked like. Stepping outside, the cool evening air hit them both, and the tension of the diner seemed to fall away. Emma knew that the bikers were still watching, but she didn't care. The mission was accomplished. She had protected Alex, and they were finally free to leave safely. The experience had strengthened her resolve and deepened the bond between mother and son. In her mind, Emma reflected on what she had done. She had faced fear, intimidation, and uncertainty, and had prevailed not through force, but through courage, love, and calm determination. Emma and Alex stepped outside the diner, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a protective blanket. The tension inside hadn't completely vanished, but it had shifted. The bikers were no longer mocking or laughing. They were watching, quiet and attentive. Emma could feel their eyes on her, assessing, curious, and even respectful in a way she hadn't expected. She knew the final step of this encounter wasn't over yet. She had led her son to safety, but the true turning point was about to happen. Alex had to make his choice. Alex hesitated for a moment, glancing at the motorcycles lined up in the parking lot. His mind raced. For weeks, he had been drawn to this world. The freedom, the excitement, and the sense of belonging he had felt with the bikers. But now, standing next to his mother, he felt a pull that was stronger than any thrill. He saw her calm, steady gaze, her unwavering presence, and something inside him shifted. Fear and guilt mixed with relief and love, creating a moment of clarity. Emma noticed the hesitation but didn't push. She simply stood beside him, hand in hand, giving him the space to make the choice. She understood that it had to come from him, not from pressure. She whispered softly, "Alex, we can go now. I'm here with you. You don't have to be afraid." Her words were gentle but filled with authority. They carried a promise. No judgment, only safety and support. The bikers watched in silence, sensing the quiet drama unfolding. The tall biker with the scarred cheek leaned against his bike, arms crossed, observing Alex's body language. He had seen many situations like this before, but none like this. It wasn't a confrontation fueled by anger or threats. It was something different, pure, unwavering parental love. The biker could feel the power of Emma's presence, and even he understood that nothing he could do would shake her. Alex finally looked up at his mother. The fear and excitement that had once pulled him toward the bikers now clashed with the certainty and safety of her love. He realized that the freedom he had been chasing came with dangers he hadn't fully understood. The thrill of rebellion seemed small compared to the comfort and protection his mother offered. Slowly he nodded. "Okay, Mom," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm coming with you." Emma's heart swelled with relief. She gave him a gentle squeeze, her eyes never leaving his. "That's my boy," she whispered, her voice soft but full of pride. In that moment, Alex felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had made the right choice and he had done it willingly. He realized that courage didn't always mean acting alone or seeking danger. It sometimes meant making the right choice, even when it was difficult. The bikers, seeing Alex's decision, began to relax. The younger ones exchanged glances, clearly impressed by the mother's resolve and the boy's choice. They hadn't expected him to step away, and their respect for both of them grew. The tall biker with the scar finally nodded subtly, a quiet acknowledgement of Emma's authority. There was no applause, no words of praise, but the gesture said everything. Emma had not only protected her son, she had commanded respect without raising her voice or threatening anyone. Alex took a deep breath, feeling a sense of safety he hadn't experienced in weeks. He stayed close to his mother, trusting her completely. He realized that the bikers, who had seemed intimidating and larger than life, were now just people. They weren't his family. They weren't the ones who had been there for him all his life. Emma had shown him that love and courage were far stronger than fear or rebellion. Emma and Alex started walking toward the edge of the parking lot, the night air cool against their faces. The motorcycles rumbled softly as some of the bikers started their engines. But there was no malice in the sound, only a quiet acknowledgement that the mother and son were leaving unharmed. Emma felt a wave of gratitude, not for the bikers' behavior, but for the lesson this moment had reinforced. Courage, love, and determination could achieve what intimidation never could. Alex stole a glance at the bikers as they drove away. He felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and even a little admiration. He realized that this experience had taught him more than any lecture or punishment ever could. His mother's calm strength had given him clarity, and now he understood the value of making the right choice, even in the face of fear. Emma looked down at her son and smiled. "We did it, Alex," she said softly. "You made the right choice, and I couldn't be prouder." Alex returned the smile, feeling closer to his mother than ever before. He realized that courage wasn't about showing off or taking risks. It was about doing the right thing, protecting those you love, and trusting in the people who care for you. The bikers watched them leave, some nodding quietly, others just observing. Emma's presence had shifted something inside the group. They had come expecting a confrontation, perhaps a show of bravado, but instead they witnessed a mother's unwavering courage and a boy's choice to follow the right path. Respect had been earned, not through fear or force, but through determination, love, and quiet authority. As Emma and Alex walked away from the diner, hand in hand, the night seemed less daunting. The road ahead was still uncertain in many ways, but the bond between mother and son had grown stronger than ever. Emma knew that challenges might come again, but they would face them together, equipped with the courage and love that had carried them through the night. In that moment, Emma realized something profound. The power of a parent's love, when combined with calm determination, could move even the most stubborn hearts. And for Alex, the lesson was clear. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is trust the ones who love them and make the right choice, no matter how tempting the wrong path may seem. Emma and Alex walked slowly away from the diner, the cool night air brushing against their faces. The tension that had filled the room moments ago now seemed to hang lightly in the empty parking lot, almost dissipating with each step they took. Alex still held tightly to his mother's hand, feeling safer than he had in weeks. The fear and confusion that had plagued him while he was involved with the bikers now felt distant. In its place was a quiet sense of relief, pride, and gratitude for the woman who had never stopped fighting for him. Emma glanced at her son, noting the change in his expression. The hesitation and doubt that had clouded his face were gone, replaced by a clarity that came from making the right choice. She squeezed his hand gently. "We're safe now," she said softly, her voice filled with calm assurance. Alex nodded, his eyes wide but steady, understanding that the danger had passed, at least for tonight. The bikers, still lingering near their motorcycles, watched the pair leave. Their earlier amusement had vanished, replaced by a mixture of respect and quiet acknowledgement. Some of them had never encountered a parent like Emma, someone who could face them directly, calmly, and with unwavering determination. They had expected fear, resistance, or anger, but instead, they were met with something far stronger: love and authority combined. It was clear to all of them that Emma's bond with her son was unbreakable. and nothing they could say or do would interfere with it. As they walked toward the main road, Alex finally spoke, his voice quiet but full of emotion. "Mom, thank you," he said. "I didn't know how much I needed you until now." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and pride. She knelt slightly to be at his level, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "I'll always be here for you, Alex. No matter what, you can always count on me," she said softly. Her words carried a weight and sincerity that could not be denied. The journey back to the car was slow, deliberate. Emma wanted to ensure that Alex felt secure at every step, reinforcing the lesson he had just learned. Courage and love were more powerful than fear and intimidation. With each stride, he felt the strength of his mother's presence, a shield that had protected him not just physically but emotionally as well. He realized that the freedom he had sought with the bikers was an illusion. True freedom came from safety, trust, and the people who truly cared about you. Emma's mind replayed the night's events as they approached the car. She thought about the bikers, their initial laughter, and the way the atmosphere had changed as soon as she showed calm confidence. She understood that she had not only reclaimed her son but had also demonstrated something important. The quiet strength of a mother could command respect without violence or threats. The realization brought a deep sense of accomplishment, a feeling that went beyond simply getting Alex to safety. As they opened the car door, Alex slid into the passenger seat, still holding her hand for reassurance. Emma took a deep breath and started the engine, the hum of the car filling the quiet night. She glanced at her son, who was staring out the window, reflecting on everything that had just happened. "I'm proud of you for choosing the right path, Alex," she said gently. "You made a decision that shows strength, and that matters more than anything else." Alex turned to her, a small, genuine smile forming on his face. "I get it now, Mom," he said. "Being brave isn't about showing off or trying to impress anyone. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard." Emma nodded, her eyes misting slightly. "Exactly," she replied. "And remember, you're never alone. I'll always be here to guide you, to protect you, and to remind you what's important." As they drove away from the diner, the neon lights fading behind them, Emma felt a wave of peace. The ordeal that had seemed so frightening and overwhelming had transformed into a profound lesson for both her and Alex. She realized that courage didn't always mean confrontation with fists or words. It could be quiet, steady, and full of love. Her son had learned that lesson in the most powerful way possible, witnessing it firsthand. Alex looked back one last time at the diner, the group of bikers slowly driving away as well. He felt a mixture of relief and understanding. The bikers were no longer figures of fear. They were just people who had learned, silently, the depth of Emma's love and resolve. The lesson he had absorbed tonight would stay with him for the rest of his life. True courage is rooted in care, protection, and making the right choices, even when temptation or fear calls otherwise. Emma reached over and gently squeezed his shoulder. "Tonight, we faced something hard and came through together," she said. "And that's what matters, our bond, our courage, and the choices we make." Alex nodded, a newfound respect for his mother glowing in his eyes. The fear that had once gripped him was replaced by a sense of pride, not just in himself, but in the woman who had never given up on him. As they drove down the empty highway, the stars above twinkling in the night sky, Emma reflected on the journey they had taken. She knew that challenges would come again, but she also knew that together, they could face anything. The night had shown both of them the power of love, determination, and quiet courage. The memory of the diner, the bikers, and the moment Alex chose to trust her would stay with them forever. A reminder of how far a mother would go for her child, and how one brave choice could change the course of a life. By the time they reached home, Emma felt a profound sense of closure. Alex stepped out of the car, looking more confident, more grounded, and more aware of what mattered. He glanced at his mother and smiled, a smile full of trust, love, and gratitude. Emma returned it, her heart filled with pride. She had faced fear, intimidation, and uncertainty, and she had emerged stronger. Together, mother and son had conquered the night, and the bond between them had never been stronger.